Did you know that yearly Medicaid renewals will start again soon? This means millions of people who were enrolled in Medicaid during the pandemic may no longer be eligible for coverage. If this may impact you, the good news is you have options. Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield can help answer your questions so you can find an affordable health plan for you and your family. We want you to feel confident you're covered. Click to learn more. Policy exclusions and limitations apply. Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield is the trade name of Community Insurance Company.
Hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of Film Study. This is Ken McKusick. We're here to continue our series of That One Play, and we've got a good one for you tonight. This one is the 2012 AFC Championship, and specifically the hit by Bernard Pollard that KO'd Ridley on his run, caused the fumble that effectively led to the touchdown that sealed the game. There was a lot more game sealing left in terms of turnovers and whatnot. But here to talk to me about that play is Josh Reed. Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Ken. Always happy to be on with you.
Great to have you all the way from Alaska. Tell folks your Twitter handle where they can talk football with you.
You can find me at Josh Reed 907 on Twitter. It's usually say 907, but for these purposes, 907. That's how it is on Twitter. So that's where you can find me on Twitter.
All right, outstanding. So the Ravens entered this game a 7.5-point dog. They just won the Mile High Miracle, where they were a 9-point dog, and they were the next week or 2 weeks later to win the Super Bowl as a 4.5-point dog. So the Ravens, they were just in the tournament. That's what this 2012 team was. It wasn't a great team. It wasn't nearly the best team of the Harbaugh era. In fact, I think it was the fifth best of the first 5 years of the Harbaugh era. So it was remarkable, but they certainly knew how to turn it on at the right time, and in particular, Joe Flacco. But set it up a little bit in terms of the play of the game, as you recall it, and the point we got to the big play on Ridley.
Okay, so as we all know, it was all Ravens in the second half of that game. Ravens went into halftime down, came out, and it was all Ravens. In the third quarter, it was Ravens offense, that really got things going. But in the fourth quarter, it was all Ravens defense. And it all started on the first play, on the Patriots' first drive of that fourth quarter. And they were driving, were just about to get to midfield. They made it to like their own 39-yard line. And then Bernard Pollard just comes down and lays the wood, pow, right on Stephen Ridley, and knocks him out. I thought the guy's leg was broken before I thought he was knocked out. The way he kind of folded. Yeah, but then I've in the age that we live in with Twitter and stuff now, those are the kind of knockouts you see in like UFC where the guy kind of folds like a lawn chair. It's kind of like, oop, now he's out. Yep. And I was like, oh man. And then when I saw that he was knocked out, I was like, yeah. And I was doing a little thing from Friday, like, you got knocked the F out, and it was great, man.
I feel the same way. The fight reference is a really good one. I watch a lot of heavyweight boxing, and the when that era was really great, and when some of the great fighters like Mike Tyson, for example, was fighting bums at the beginning of his career, or George Foreman on his comeback was fighting bums. You saw these kind of one-punch knockouts happening a lot, where guys would they'd be out on their feet, and then they just kind of collapse down. And Ridley, in fact, held on to the football most of the way down. It had to be reviewed in terms of that football being loose on the ground, but it was fairly clearly a fumble there. Ravens recover. They took it in on a zipper play to Anquan Bolden, just I think 4 plays later. Got a score, nice high ball over the middle, kind of a classic Bolden look of takes the ball away and he's showing nothing but teeth to everybody and pointing down at the guy who was supposed to be covering him.
Yep, I got right here 4 plays later. Yep.
So, besides the fact that he was out on his feet, Pollard certainly had a history of aggressiveness with the Ravens, which was not typically positive. And this was really the one big time it paid off. I mean, I'm sure people could really find a couple more times that it paid off, but just to give you a little bit of information, he had 8 penalties that year, 5 in the regular season, 3 in the postseason. All 8 of them were personal fouls. That is an unbelievable number of personal fouls. It's frankly an unbelievable number of penalties for a safety, but to be all personal fouls, just an absurd circumstance.
But that just goes to show you the kind of player Bernard Pollard was, man. I mean, even in the age of the early 2010s, he was like a throwback kind of safety, the in the box coming downhill. Like I feel like he would have been a great on the 2000s Ravens defense just because he's one of those slobber knocker dudes that like coming downhill and punching guys in the mouth. And I mean, him and Ray Lewis probably would have been best friends back in 1999 or 2000, man. And I just feel like that play really personified Bernard Pollard's time as a Raven. Even though it was a short stint, only a few years, but like everybody's always gonna remember that play. I mean, he got nicknamed the Patriot Killer before he became a Raven, but that just added on to that legacy and that mystique of the Patriot Killer that was Bernard Pollard.
That's a great point, because in 2008, when the Patriots had an off year, didn't make the playoffs, they still went 11-5. They almost made it, but it was Bernard Pollard in week 1 as a member of the Chiefs who knocked Tom Brady out for the year with a low hit to his knee. And that was that. But I got to say, in terms of the Ravens, one of the reasons they got rid of Bernard Pollard, and probably the main reason, was that they really couldn't stand the penalties anymore. And the game was changing and they were protecting players and whatnot. But Pollard that year, week 3, personal foul, 15 yards. Week 4, unnecessary roughness, 15 yards. Week 7, unnecessary roughness, 11 yards. Week 7, face mask, 15 yards. Week 12, unnecessary roughness, 15 yards. We go to the playoffs, and he had 3 penalties, which was second on the Ravens to Shockey Brown, unbelievably. But his playoff penalties were unnecessary roughness, taunting, and unnecessary roughness. That is an unbelievable 8-pack of bad there for a safety.
See, Ken, some guys are ahead of their time, right? Like, some guys are ahead of their time. We're like, like this guy's, we're living in 2000 this, and he's living 2088 or something like that. Now, Bernard Pollard is one of those guys who was behind his time. Okay, he was a throwback among throwbacks. Like, like I said, he's one of those guys that he would have been perfect from like the night. Honestly, in the era up until like the mid 2000s, he would have been perfect for. Yeah. I mean, all that taunting and the unnecessary roughness and all that kind of stuff, that was just football like 15, 20 years ago. Now, like nowadays, and like the turn of the last decade, so that kind of stuff started getting phased out of the game, with promotion of player safety, which is, a good thing. But, what is necessarily a good thing for guys like Bernard Pollard? And, like I said, he was a guy, but behind his time. And he definitely one of those throwback guys. And I know he's not the most favorite person among the Ravens fans nowadays, but I'm always going to have a special place in my heart for a guy like Bernard Pollard, just because, he's kind of one of those really throwback guys. And that phrase gets tossed around a lot. Oh, he's a throwback guy. No, Bernard Pollard was really throwback too.
Right. Yeah, if you go back and watch that 2012 season, watch all the games, I'm sure you'd really be frustrated in a sense by Bernard Pollard. And I think the Ravens got that way by the end of the year. But also you want to have this guy in your team. And I think the 2000 Ravens would have been a great team for him to play on. He would have fit right in there with Siragusa and what he did to Gannon and whatnot.
Perfect.
But, he was a strange player, and he didn't have a good Super Bowl. Had a very tough time in coverage in that game, and Ray Lewis also did not have a good Super Bowl in terms of his coverage. And Crabtree was actually taunting him on the field about it before making 3 great plays in a supporting role at the end of the game, beginning on 2nd and 5. So 2nd and 5, 3rd and 5, 4th and 5 were actually the last 3 defensive plays of Ray's career. Made a contribution to each of those stops, which was really significant, including pulling Iapati out of the gap so that Ellerbe could rush for the game-sealing quarterback hit on Kaepernick. So quarterback hit or pressure? I think it was a quarterback hit, but it might have just been a pressure. Either way, he forced the ball out quickly and the ball was overthrown. So it was a nice double there. But Pollard, he didn't have a lot of redeeming qualities in that Super Bowl. And after that, they were done with him. And it has tainted the relationship between the Ravens and Pollard. And frankly, Pollard has not been quiet about it since.
Vernon Davis definitely ate his lunch in that game. After the lights came back on, the Ravens had no answer for Vernon or Crabtree for the most part. Those guys were just bouncing off of tackles left and right, and he was trying to deliver those big hits, but those guys are a little built different. Crabtree was always a big bodied receiver, and Vernon Davis was he's a top 15 pick he wasn't top 15 pick for no reason. So that was like peak Vernon Davis too. So like I said, it sucks the way his Ravens career is kind of like look back on as like negatively. Even when he had that little speak with Lamar on social media, they want to bring up his career stats and career this. I'm like, well, if he actually paid attention to the team back then, he was an integral part of that team for the short stretch that he was there. Yeah, he kind of got phased out, by his style of play and all that. But yeah, and it sucks that he doesn't have the same relationship that some of the other guys from the 2012 team have with the team still. Like Vontae Leach is always coming back for any kind of like 2012 celebration thing. And I got a chance to meet him in person, and that was great while I was in college. But you'd like to think that all guys from every Super Bowl team, has a good relationship with the team, but not necessarily the case. Trent Dilfer, took a while for him to kind of mend his fences with relationship with the team, and then probably the same. I'm pretty sure Tony Banks doesn't feel too great about the whole 2000 Ravens thing, anyways.
I'm sorry, who was the second one you named? I didn't.
Tony Banks. Yeah, he probably doesn't feel the greatest about
Tony Banks has sold a Super Bowl ring, and Trent Dilfer. I saw at an autograph show, and it wasn't that long after the game. I think it was before the 2012 game, but they brought back the Super Bowl 35 winners and also a lot of the living members of the 1958 Colts. Were at the same autograph show. And so it's kind of a neat thing. But Dilfer, pure class act. He was taking off his Super Bowl ring. He's wearing a Super Bowl ring for one thing, which is a nice thing for photo ops. But then he was taking it off and he was letting kids wear it for the photos. They would come up, and that's a class act. And while he had certainly a fair amount of bitterness, and it probably took him a little while to get over the fact that the Ravens really didn't want him back. And he thought that, I can manage this team if I managed it last year kind of thing. The Ravens moved on. I think he finally came to understand why they, felt like they needed to do that. And it's an unfortunate thing. And maybe he could have stayed as the backup or whatever, but they didn't really want that. They wanted two guys, Gerback and Cunningham in that 2001 season. But I've always thought very highly of Trent Dilfer, and all the stuff recently we've seen on the Baltimore Bullies and at that event in particular, complete class act every time I've seen him. It's never been an issue with him, acting like he was bitter about the experience.
Yeah, he even admitted during that Baltimore Billies of Baltimore thing that he's like, frankly, I wasn't good. He even said I wasn't good. I was wasn't athletic as I wanted to be, and I had been around the league, stuff like that. So that kind of what's the word I'm looking for? That kind of like self-actualization, like realizing, just like knowing, coming to terms with your own, okay, this is what I was once upon a time. This is what I am now. This is what I was in that moment for that team. I hope Bernard eventually comes to that realization too. That like as much as you want to drag the team for the shortcomings since you left, but you still got to be appreciative of the time that you spent there, and it is what it is.
Yeah, that's what I'd want from Bernard Pollard. I don't need him to feel like it was fair for the Ravens to dump him, or that his style of play didn't fit. If he didn't think that, well, I mean, that he should probably take a look at the rest of the league and just understand that it really wasn't working anymore. But all I really want is for him to not lash out on social media at the team. I think that's silly. I think it really reflects poorly upon him, and I think he's could rise above that if he wanted to. And even now, I don't think it's really ever too late to kind of back off some of the things you said. If in fact a simple 288 character or less apology would get it done, I think, on social media for him.
Honestly, Ken, I don't foresee that happening. The whole apology thing. You can apologize in two different ways. You could issue the public apology and people will retweet it or say you're backstepping, or you could just change your tune on the team. You could just change your tune on the team, and instead of dragging them to try to get your name out there and get more appearances on the Colin Cowherd show or whatever. Just be more supportive of the team, and that's kind of hard to do in a day and age where everybody's trying to promote their brand or promote their podcast or trying to appear on more podcasts or that kind of stuff where contrarian stuff always gets more clicks, always gets more views. True. Right? Yeah. So whenever you're saying so and so ain't ish or they ain't that, like this is one of the things I loathe and also kind of admire about Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless is not people's most favorite TV personality right now, but he'll go on social media and say, "Hey, I'll tell you why I don't think Patrick Mahomes is this." before. So we're tuning now to Undisputed. So like he knows that even though people disagree with him, they're going to tune into his show to call him a hole or to say that he's not right or wrong about this. Either way, all publicity is good publicity in today's day and age of social media. So he may not, outwardly apologize, but he could, change his tune, especially if the Ravens win a championship in the next year or two. Then he'll have nothing to do but change his tune. He can, as long as they don't win another title, since he's been there, he can still, go prattling on about how, they're not going to do this until they change this. But once you kind of gotta, put him. What's the word I'm looking for? Just kind of silence him with your play on the field.
Yeah. All right, outstanding stuff, Josh. Great play to talk about. Great choice. Other folks out there, if you'd like to do this same kind of thing, hit me up with the DM on Twitter. They're always open. Just looking for one play in Ravens history that means something special to you. You heard how Josh explained it. Does a great job. And, we talk a little bit about the history, bounce that back and forth, and it's done in 15 minutes. We're at that point right now, Josh, so we got to say goodbye here. But thanks again for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Ken. It's always a pleasure.
We'll talk to you next time on Film Study.
For TBWA Chiat Day New York and Nissan ISKI code NOAY000500, spot entitled My 23 Aria Launch, GM brand fully loaded 30-second radio spot, stereo mono compatible mixed with 2-pop.
The all-new Nissan Aria is a fully loaded EV. It's brimming with style and power.
Up to 389 horses of it.
Innovation and intelligence.
E-Force all-wheel drive.
It'll pin you to your seat.
Your very plush seat.
The all-new, all-electric Nissan Aria. Nissan Aria with E-Force expected availability early 2023. E-Force cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions. E-Force and 389 horsepower available on Platinum Plus. Nissan calculation using 1-foot rollout testing with long-range battery and E-Force only in sport mode with E-Step off. These results are for comparison only and should not be attempted on public roads. Drive responsibly. See nissanusa.com for details.
Science proves quality sleep is vital to your mental, emotional, and physical health. The Sleep Number 360 smart bed senses your movements and automatically adjusts to help keep you both effortlessly comfortable. And it's temperature balancing, so you stay cool. So you're at your best for yourself and those you care about most. Life-changing sleep, only from Sleep Number. It's our ultimate Sleep Number event. Save 50% on the Sleep Number 360 limited edition smart bed, plus special financing. Ends Monday. To learn more, go to sleepnumber.com. Special financing subject to credit approval. Minimum monthly payments required. See store for details.